Angela Rayner, once hailed as Labor's working-class warrior, the fiery deputy who fought her way from a council estate in Stockport to the second-highest office in the land, has resigned. In one of the most dramatic moments in modern British politics, Rayner stepped down from her senior government roles after revelations about a tax error and mounting media scrutiny became impossible to ignore. But this isn't just about one mistake in property tax. This is about pressure. It's about family. And it's about the brutal cost of power. In her resignation letter to Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Rayner admits she failed to meet the highest possible standards of conduct. Not because of corruption, not because of dishonesty, but because she made a costly error in her financial affairs. And yet, the resignation sends shockwaves through the Labour Party. Critics see it as a devastating blow to Keir Starmer's credibility. Supporters argue it proves Labour is finally holding itself to higher standards. The truth? Somewhere in between. Tonight, we break down the full story: Angela Rayner's resignation, Starmer's response, and the independent ethics advisor's damning report. From her rise as a teenage mom turned union rep to her fall as deputy prime minister, this is not just a story about one woman. It's a story about the future of British politics. Stay with us, because over the next hour, we'll reveal the letters in full, analyze the political fallout, and ask the big question: what does Angela Rayner's resignation really mean for Labour and for Britain? To understand the scale of this resignation, we must go back to Angela Rayner's own words. In her letter to Keir Starmer, she lays bare the pressure, the regret, and the honor of serving at the highest levels of government. Let's hear it. Dear Keir, thank you for the personal and public support you have shown me in recent days. As you know, on Wednesday, I referred myself to your independent advisor on ministerial standards, Sir Laurie Magnus, to conduct a thorough investigation into my personal financial circumstances after I became aware that it is likely I inadvertently paid the incorrect rate for stamp duty land tax. Right from the start, Rayner admits the problem: a mistake in paying stamp duty land tax, or SDLT, during a property purchase. It wasn't a backroom scandal or offshore accounts. It was, as she frames it, a technical error. But in politics, perception is everything. And for a housing secretary to mishandle property tax, that is politically fatal. I deeply regret my decision to not seek additional specialist tax advice, given both my position as housing secretary and my complex family arrangements. I take full responsibility for this error. I would like to take this opportunity to repeat that it was never my intention to do anything other than pay the right amount. Notice the key phrase here: I take full responsibility. Politicians rarely use that line unless they know the end is near. Rayner isn't pleading ignorance. She isn't blaming advisors. She admits it was her mistake. And that honesty, ironically, is what makes this resignation so powerful and so painful. I must also consider the significant toll that the ongoing pressure of the media is taking on my family. While I rightly expect proper scrutiny on me and my life, my family did not choose to have their private lives interrogated and exposed so publicly. The strain I am putting them under through staying in post has become unbearable. And here lies the heart of her resignation. It wasn't just tax. It wasn't just politics. It was about family. Angela Rayner grew up in poverty, raised her son as a teenager, and made family the core of her political identity. For her to say the strain is unbearable, it shows that behind the headlines, the human cost of politics is real. For many viewers, this is where sympathy begins to outweigh criticism. For a teenage mom from a council estate in Stockport to serve at the highest level of government has been the honor of my life. I would never have become deputy prime minister if not for the decisions taken by the last Labour government, giving me a council house, sure start to help raise my kids, and the security of a minimum wage. This is Angela Rayner at her best, connecting her life story to the politics she represents. It's not just about her resignation. It's about the working-class roots that defined her rise. And by invoking the Labour legacy of council houses, Sure Start, and the minimum wage, she reminds Britain what Labour once stood for and what it risks losing. Through my employment rights bill, People across the country will receive the biggest uplift in workers' rights in a generation. Our renters' rights bill will finally ban the oppressive rule of no-fault evictions. I am proud that in every decision I made, I did it for them. This section is more than self-praise. It's a political legacy statement. Rayner is planting a flag. I may be gone, but my achievements remain. For labor voters, this reinforces her image as a doer, not just a talker. For critics, it looks like a parting shot, reminding Starmer and his team that much of their agenda bore her fingerprints. Thank you for your leadership and for your friendship. I will continue to serve you, our country, and the party and movement I love in the weeks, months, and years ahead. Yours sincerely, Angela Rayner. And with that, Angela Rayner exits the stage for now. But make no mistake, the tone of this letter is not one of permanent retirement. She speaks of serving the movement she loves in the years ahead. In politics, that is code for "I'll be back." Angela Rayner's resignation shook the very foundations of the Labor government. But just as significant was the response from her leader, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. His words were carefully chosen, blending loyalty with necessity, sympathy with finality. Let's break down his reply. Dear Angela, I am writing to accept, with sadness, your resignation as Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Housing, Communities, and Local Government. You have been a huge source of strength for the Labor Party, both in opposition and government, and I want to thank you for everything you have done. From the first line, Starmer sets the tone, sadness. He doesn't say anger, disappointment, or betrayal. He frames it as a loss, not a punishment. For the public, this paints Rayner's exit as a tragedy of circumstance rather than corruption. It also signals unity. Starmer wants no civil war inside labor. Your journey from a council estate in Stockport to the highest levels of government is a story that has inspired millions. You have been a tireless campaigner for working people, and your determination and authenticity have left an indelible mark on our movement. This passage isn't just flattery, it's strategy. Starmer reinforces Rayner's personal brand as the working-class fighter. Why? Because labor cannot afford to alienate her base of supporters. By praising her authenticity, he shields himself from accusations of forcing her out. He's essentially saying, Angela, you're still a hero in our story. I fully respect your decision to refer yourself to the independent advisor on ministerial standards, and I admire the integrity you have shown in taking responsibility. While I regret that this has led to your resignation, I have no doubt that you will continue to play a vital role in our party and our country. Here Starmer is walking a tightrope. On the one hand, he validates her decision, respecting the ethics of accountability. On the other, he subtly distances himself, saying, I regret this has led to your resignation. It's a classic leader's move. Acknowledge the pain, but keep the machine moving. Angela, you have always been a fighter. I know this will not be the end of your service to labor or to Britain. Our movement needs voices like yours, strong, principled, and rooted in the lives of working people. I look forward to continuing to work alongside you in the years ahead. This is Starmer at his most political. He leaves the door wide open for a comeback. By saying this will not be the end, he assures labor supporters that Rayner isn't being erased. Instead, she's being repositioned, a loyal ally, still part of the story. It's damage control, but also a promise of continuity. In the end, Keir Starmer's response was more than a resignation letter. It was a balancing act. He mourned the loss of his deputy, praised her achievements, and reassured labor voters that her voice would not be silenced. Yet between the lines, the message was clear. The show must go on. Starmer is determined to steady the ship, even if it means sailing without his strongest lieutenant. Angela Rayner's resignation wasn't just a personal tragedy. It set off political shockwaves across Westminster, shockwaves that threatened to destabilize the government, hand ammunition to the Conservatives, and reopen Labour's deepest wounds. What happened next was a brutal reminder of how unforgiving British politics can be. The Tories wasted no time. For them, Rayner's resignation was a gift, proof, they claimed, that Labour's moral high ground was nothing but a facade. Keir Starmer promised integrity and accountability. Yet his deputy prime minister failed to pay her taxes correctly. If this had been a conservative minister, Labour would be baying for blood. Double standards, plain and simple. Expect phrases like Labour hypocrisy, broken promises, and rotten at the core to dominate Tory talking points. The strategy is obvious. Frame this not as one minister's mistake, but as a symbol of Labour's unfitness to govern. This is a government that cannot even get its own finances in order, let alone the nation's. For Sunak, still fighting to rebuild credibility after Tory scandals, this was political gold. It allowed him to flip the script. Suddenly, Labour, not the Conservatives, looked like the party mired in ethical failure. The press pounced. For the tabloids, Rayner's resignation was irresistible. Scandal, money, family drama, and a political star brought down by taxes. The headlines wrote themselves. Tax blunder brings down Labour deputy. Stamp duty, scandal rocks Starmer. From council estate to crisis. But while tabloids went for sensationalism, the broadsheets focused on deeper questions. Could Starmer's government survive without its most relatable figure? Was Labour's project of renewal now fatally wounded? And would the party split between Starmer loyalists and Rayner's grassroots supporters? Television debates erupted. Some pundits praised Rayner for doing the honorable thing. Others asked, was she forced out by a system stacked against working-class politicians? After all, had she been a privately educated millionaire lawyer, would the same tax mistake have ended her career? Inside Labour, the mood was tense. On the surface, MPs rallied behind Starmer. But beneath that unity, cracks appeared. Rayner loyalists whispered about betrayal, claiming she had been sacrificed to protect Starmer's image. Others insisted she had made the right call, but worried the party had lost its heart. Angela connects with people in a way Keir never will. Without her, we look like another party of polished lawyers and technocrats. That's not what voters signed up for. For Starmer, this is the nightmare scenario, a narrative that Labour is once again losing touch with ordinary people. Rayner's working-class story was a crucial part of their brand. Without her, the government risks looking like business as usual. And what about the public? Early polls suggested a split. Some saw Rayner as a victim, a woman who rose from nothing, punished for an honest mistake. Others were harsher. If you can't get your taxes right, you shouldn't be running the country. Angela's one of us. She made a mistake, sure, but at least she admitted it. How many Tories have done the same? They're all the same. Labour, Tory doesn't matter. They look after themselves and expect us to pay up. How about no sympathy? This divide is crucial. If voters see Rayner as relatable and human, her resignation could backfire on the Conservatives, making Labour look like the party of honesty. But if the narrative hardens around incompetence, Starmer's credibility takes a hit. With Rayner gone, a bigger question looms. Who replaces her as Deputy Prime Minister and Labour's number 2? Names floated immediately. Rachel Reeves, seen as a safe pair of hands. Wes Streeting, ambitious and media-savvy. Yvette Cooper, experienced and steady. But none of them carry Rayner's unique story. None grew up on a council estate, raised children as a teenage mom, or fought tooth and nail to break into politics. Whoever replaces her, the cultural gap will be glaring. The fallout wasn't confined to Britain. International media covered the story, portraying Rayner's resignation as another chapter in the UK's endless political turbulence. European commentators fretted about stability. American outlets framed it as a reminder that integrity scandals can fell even left-wing governments. For allies watching closely, the question was simple. Is Starmer strong enough to govern without her? Or is Labour already wobbling less than a year into power? In politics, perception is everything. Angela Rayner's resignation has reshaped the perception of Starmer's Labour in 3 key ways. First, it has punctured the image of Labour as squeaky clean. Integrity was their rallying cry. Now it's in doubt. Second, it has exposed Labour's dependence on Rayner as the human face of the government. Without her, Starmer looks more vulnerable to the charge of being aloof, technocratic, even elitist. And third, it has emboldened the Conservatives. After years on the defensive over sleaze, they now smell blood. Every Prime Minister's questions will become a trial of Starmer's credibility. In Westminster, survival is about momentum. For Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner's resignation is more than just the loss of his deputy. It's the moment the narrative shifted from a Labour Party in control to a Labour Party under siege. Angela Rayner's resignation has closed one chapter of British politics, but it has also opened another. What will be her legacy? Can she return from this scandal? And what does her fall mean for the future of Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, and the country? To understand Rayner's legacy, we must go back to where it began. A teenage mom from Stockport, a care worker, a trade union rep, a woman who fought her way from the margins of society to the very heart of government. Her story wasn't just inspiring, it was political gold. Rayner became proof that Labour was still the party of working people, still capable of giving ordinary citizens a voice at the highest levels of power. Angela made people believe politics wasn't just for the posh or the privileged. She made people believe it was for them. Her biggest achievements, the Employment Rights Bill, renters' protections, investment in social housing, will remain part of her legacy. Even her critics admit she delivered on policy, and that legacy cannot be erased by one tax mistake. But beyond politics, Rayner's story is also one of immense personal sacrifice. Her resignation letter laid it bare. The media pressure, the intrusion into her family's life, the toll on her children. She wasn't just a minister. She was a mom, a partner, and a woman trying to shield her loved ones from the unforgiving glare of British politics. In the end, that pressure was unbearable, and it played a major role in her decision to step down. People forget politicians are human. They've got kids, families, people they love. Angela put them first, and in a way, that shows her strength. In British politics, resignations are rarely the end. Just look at Boris Johnson, written off a dozen times before becoming Prime Minister, or Michael Gove, sacked, humiliated, but always returning. So the question is, can Angela Rayner stage a comeback? Her supporters think so. They argue that her honesty, her working-class roots, and her authenticity give her a resilience other politicians lack. If public sympathy hardens in her favor, she could emerge stronger, perhaps even as a future Labour leader. Angela's resignation hurts now, but give it time. If Labour struggles under Starmer, don't be surprised if the grassroots start chanting one name again: Rayner. For Keir Starmer, the road ahead is harder. Without Rayner, he loses his bridge to working-class Britain. He loses the fiery voice that balanced his lawyerly caution, and he faces the constant danger that every Labour misstep will be compared to Rayner's downfall. The Conservatives will exploit this at every opportunity. If Labour's Deputy Prime Minister can't manage her own taxes, why should we trust Labour to manage the nation's? Expect to hear that line again and again. Starmer may try to promote a loyalist, someone safe, uncontroversial, and reliable. But safe choices rarely inspire, and Labour's greatest risk is losing the sense of passion and connection that Angela Rayner embodied. In the end, this story isn't just about one politician. It's about trust. Do people still believe that politics can change lives? Or does Rayner's fall confirm their worst suspicions, that politics is a rigged game, where ordinary people are torn down the moment they climb too high? If they can destroy Angela, what chance does anyone else from our background have? They're all the same. Doesn't matter if you're Labour or Tory, they'll all find a way to bend the rules. This tension between hope and cynicism will define Labour's future. If Starmer can convince people that Rayner's departure doesn't change the mission, Labour may yet thrive. But if cynicism wins, the road to re-election could crumble beneath them. Angela Rayner's resignation is not the end of her story. It is a pause, a painful public pause in a career built on defying the odds. She may return. She may reinvent herself outside politics, or she may wait for history to call her name once again. But one thing is certain: her journey, from a teenage mom in Stockport to Britain's deputy prime minister, will remain one of the most extraordinary stories in modern politics. And her fall, however temporary, reminds us all of a brutal truth. In Westminster, power is fragile, reputations are fleeting, and survival depends not just on what you achieve, but on how the world perceives you. This is not just Angela Rayner's story. This is the story of Britain itself, a nation still searching for leaders who can bridge the gap between the people and power. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights.